Hello, and here we go. Welcome into April 5th, 2023. This is life as we know it, or I know it, or you know it. I'm Stephen Lewis, radio guy for a long time. Morning shows, which I kind of missed doing a morning show, not going to lie. Afternoon shows, still on the air, and love programming music for people to listen to and all that kind of stuff. It's a good job. Blessed to be able to do it and hope to continue to do it. Anyway, like me, follow me on socials at Stephen Lewis on the Air. I post tons of pictures of my dogs and various other things. Once in a while I say something mind-blowing. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of the above. But enough about that. Let's get into today. There's a lot going on, and I have a lot on my mind that will come out in another one of these at some other time. There's just a lot that I've been thinking about lately. A lot of my friends have lost their jobs, and, I'm kind of at a weird spot career-wise as well. So there's a lot of that to talk about. But not today. I also have to go to a funeral this week, so I'm trying to not talk about the things that I truly want to talk about that could be misconstrued as being depressing because, well, they are depressive. But I wanted to do something else. So today I'm going to focus on The Mandalorian, the show that saved Star Wars. But let me first start by saying, as a Star Wars fan person, we gotta back off a little bit. I am so sick of everybody complaining. This is why we can't have nice things. So Mandalorian comes out a couple of years ago and kind of changes, makes people like Star Wars again, because Disney's sequel trilogy destroyed that with the direction they went with all of that. And, kind of the mouse ruined many a Star Wars fan's childhood. I have talked about that ad nauseum. I'm not going to go there. But along comes The Mandalorian, which gets people loving Star Wars again. Grogu, a.k.a. Baby Yoda, made people buy the toys. The merchandise sales were up, and we couldn't get enough of Din Djarin, played by Pedro Pascal. We are now into the third season. The second season was pretty epic, but The Mandalorian led to other things, starting with, we got the Book of Boba Fett, which was, I don't know that anybody wanted the Book of Boba Fett, but I thought it was really, a good idea to do the Book of Boba Fett, because you had a character that everybody thought was super cool that just never really got the time of day. He was only on screen for a few minutes. There was a lot of stuff written about him after the fact, but Disney kind of canceled all that. So now you're back to to Boba Fett, trying to tell a deeper story of what that dude was all about. And I kind of enjoyed it, but I think it got lost a little bit, because it couldn't figure out if it wanted to be a gangster movie or a Western, and the setting was off. But I like that it kind of expanded the Star Wars world, but a lot of people completely bashed the Book of Boba Fett, and everybody's right to have their own opinion. Then we got Obi-Wan, which was the Star Wars show that everybody wanted for a long time. Everybody wanted to know what was going on between Obi-Wan's time on Tatooine after the prequels and prior to the new trilogy, or the original trilogy. And we got that story, which a lot of people once again complained about because, for whatever reason. And I think there were certainly some things they could have done differently. But overall, I was a fan of the story. I liked the concept of young Leia. I liked the idea of they made things like the first duel between Obi-Wan and Vader in Star Wars so much better. Like, the show was good. It was great to see Ewan McGregor again, and it told an interesting story from a very emotional point of view from Obi-Wan. You meet him as a broken dude in a world that, he didn't really belong in anymore, but he gets called back into service for the only reason that he probably would, to defend one of Anakin's children. So I thought it was a good story, but we complained about that. Then we get to Andor, which was a show that for the longest time no one was excited about, nobody wanted, but then Andor comes along and blows people away. This is why people love Star Wars. It was great. People loved Andor because it was a slow burn. They told a story. And then now we get to The Mandalorian Season 3, and the complaint that everybody has is it's not moving fast enough. We're not getting enough answers to questions. So you can't have it both ways. You can't, I like a slow burn so it tells the story. Then you get the slow burn. It's, it needs to be sped up a little bit. There were some things, two episodes ago, The Mandalorian, this go-round, was pretty much Andor-esque in the fact that it was a really slow burn as far as the episode goes, but people go, oh, it's out of place. So it's, you know, you can't win for losing, I guess. I've liked this season. They kind of pick up. The one thing that I don't really dig, I think they should have changed Boba Fett in the sense that both Mando and Grogu didn't show up in Boba Fett, because what happened is, if you're just watching The Mandalorian and you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, you all of a sudden, at the end of Season 2, Mando and Baby Yoda split up. And now in Season 3, they're back together. So you never really kind of understand, wait a minute, how did Mandalorian get a new ship? How did Baby Yoda come back? All of that is explained in an episode of Book of Boba Fett, which probably should have been tagged on as the first episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. I think that would have worked better, because you can't count on everybody to watch all these shows to find out what's going on and what's happening. And honestly, to Disney, it's really not fair to make people do that. If you're a fan of The Mandalorian, everything should kind of be contained into that show. And then if he pops up as a guest on another show, that's cool, but it doesn't change the overall story of what's going on his show. Needless to say, we pick up with them two back together, and he's trying to redeem himself in the eyes of the other Mandalorians, which brings back Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan Kryze, who's a character from Clone Wars, who, if you didn't watch the Clone Wars cartoon, you're not going to know her backstory. You're not going to know what's going on with her, but she's actually a really cool character. You kind of pick up with them kind of rebuilding the Mandalorians, so to speak. And then there's the question of what happened to Moff Gideon, who was the big bad in the first 2 seasons. Spoiler alert, in the previous episode, we get a really cool version of Mandalorian. It was a lot of fun. It was action-packed. It was very much Star Wars. And in the end of it, we find out that Moff Gideon had been broken out of custody by quote-unquote Mandalorians. So then we're waiting this week for the answer to that question. What we get instead is a continuation of Din and Bo-Katan going to reunite the tribes of Mandalore. So all the Mandalorians that were with her in Season 2, they've kind of broken away from her, so she's going to get them back. So they land on this world that is governed by, wait for it, Lizzo and Jack Black. And I liked Jack Black, and I thought it was kind of fun that he played the character that he played. I thought it worked for what it was. And I didn't hate this episode, but I can understand where people would think that it's pretty decisive, because it kind of takes a break from what the plot actually should be. We go on this side quest, but the side quest was very Star Wars. It was very George Lucas Star Wars, and it was a lot of fun. I didn't like Lizzo, and I think the one thing that George Lucas did very well was he was very careful about letting cameos into Star Wars when he was in charge, because sometimes those cameos overshadow the actual story, and I think Lizzo did that. Nothing against her. I just feel like she was out of place. I think she did the best she could, but I think everybody was like, why the hell is Lizzo in Star Wars? And that's what you get. But the story didn't bother me, and I thought Christopher Lloyd as the bad guy of the episode was a lot of fun. It was good to see Doc Brown do something else and be part of the Star Wars universe. I liked all of that. But then we get back to the end after they go on this side quest. We get back to them reuniting the Mandalorians, and it ends up being a fight between Bo-Katan and one of the other Mandalorians, the guy from, I can't think of his name, Axe Voss or something like that. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he is kind of leading her group, and she takes it back. They fight each other, and the fight was okay. I thought it was just an excuse to use basically all the combat weapons that they use, but it was serviceable, and it was entertaining, and there was a lot of chemistry kind of brewing between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, so I don't know if maybe there's a relationship on the horizon there. We saw Sasha Banks come back, and that was fun. But in the end, you can't rule Mandalore without the Darksaber, which was the weapon that Din came into possession of because he beat Moff Gideon, who was the previous holder of the Darksaber, and he could not give it to Bo-Katan because it was It can't be given, it must be won in combat. So a lot of people were waiting for Bo to challenge Mando to get the Darksaber back, but he in turn gave it to her because he said, if you go back a couple of episodes, he was defeated by a droid and she saved him and used the Darksaber, and then he reclaimed it, but he didn't earn it because he technically lost it in combat and she beat the person that beat him, so she won the Darksaber. It's kind of convoluted and confusing, but anyway, he gives it to her and the other Mandalorians accept it, and now you have her kind of back in charge. To see where all this is going, don't know, but there's only 2 episodes left and you still have to figure out where Moff Gideon comes into play again and what's going on with what they set up. I think a lot of what these shows are doing are creating a reason why the First Order comes about in the sequel trilogy, how the New Republic's not very strong, and you have all these groups uprising, you're also using a lot of the cloning stuff that will, I think, eventually pay off how the Emperor came back at the end. I mean, true story, the Emperor came back at the end because they effed up everything. They didn't have a story, and they decided to bring him back, which made no sense at all. So now all these shows are kind of fixing Disney's mistake there. So again, I see where this one might be a little bit decisive, but I don't get the needless complaining that we do about everything. Why can't we just take it for entertainment value, watch it, like it, enjoy it, and call it what it is? Star Wars on TV, which is something that I think most of us never thought we would ever get, but we've got it now, and we still find reasons to throw a fit about it. So anyway, watch it, draw your own conclusions. There was a lot of stuff in it that I liked and that I had fun with. There was a lot of stuff in it that, I was kind of trying to figure out why they chose this part in the story to do this. And this episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is Ron Howard's daughter, who has every episode that she has directed, anything to do with Star Wars, has been phenomenal. And she's the one that a lot of people would like to see take over the movie mantle and get to do some Star Wars movies again. But who knows if that's going to happen. But nonetheless, we got a new episode of The Mandalorian, and we got 2 episodes left before season 3 ends, and we'll see where it all goes. Got a comment, drop it in the usual spot, and we can discuss. If you haven't seen it yet, I apologize for spoiling some of it. But I guess that's what I got today. That is life as we know it. Season 3, episode 6 of The Mandalorian. Go spend time now with people you like, love, or tolerate, because time is limited. So get out of here, and I guess this is the way.